Hello again. I'm Jenyce,
And
and
I'm Wendy Lee Baldwin Hargett.
hey, we're back. The two of us are back
Yay!
here. This is Lightweavings podcast, and this is where we ask that question: what has dimmed your light, and are you ready to do something about it? Some of our conversations may be uncomfortable for some, but this is how we break through and get answers to issues that we're dealing with. We have a great topic to talk about today, and it is all about spiritual awakening. Who's one with that?
Yay, I'm excited.
Too. Wow. So, Wendy, can you explain a little bit about what you have experienced in spiritual awakening so far this year?
Oh, my spiritual awakening actually started years ago.
Awesome.
And this is back when I lived in Hawaii. And it was an incredible experience. But before I share with you what that was like, I'll just share a little bit about what it might feel like before it happens or while it's starting to happen and while it's happening, because it can be a really confusing time.
Mm.
And I didn't know a lot of this stuff, other than experience it on my own. And then, once I've gotten through the hard part of it, the challenging part, I've learned that yes, a lot of people will experience what I'm going to share here. So anybody listening, if you feel any of these things, experience any of what I'm going to share, just know that you're normal and it's all going to be okay. It is okay.
And it's awesome to be able to share some of these experiences. If you are noticing anything that Wendy is talking about and it's happened to you, make a comment below if you're on YouTube. Please do that.
That's a great idea. Love that. Thanks, Dawn. Uh, so before you really start having that awakening feeling, life can feel really chaotic. All kinds of things can be going sideways. So much confusion. There might be some health issues that are popping up. That's really common, but you can feel like your life is going to hell in a handbasket.
Mm.
And it's okay. I just want to say, whatever anybody's going through a hard time, remember to breathe and you're going to get through this. Okay.
Usually doesn't feel okay at the time.
No, it does not. No, it can feel like the world's going to end. It can make you feel like you want to give up. Like, what's the point? You can feel hopeless, helpless, stuck,
Full of
just
fear. Mhm.
start. Yeah, all kinds of things. And then what can happen is you can have like little glimmers of hope. And then it's like you get sucked back into this vortex again of all this chaos, all this stuff that's stirring up is kind of what the visual that comes to my mind is like a tornado or a hurricane, things that are just blowing everything around. And then you can have a little bit of calm, and then there can be a little bit of peace again. And then there can be like this little niggling inside of you of saying, hey, this isn't really working. I don't like what's happening. There has to be something better. There has to be some hope. There has to be a different way. And that little niggle, that is that little voice in your head that's saying, hey, there's a possibility of something better. That is your soul starting to come forward and overriding your ego and saying, yes, there is a possibility that things will get better. And again, we get to just breathe. And I highly recommend hanging on to those moments of that hope and that light actually is what it is. It's a spark of light that comes within you. For myself, my spiritual awakening, it came in stages. But there was a particular time frame that was extremely instrumental and life-changing, and I will share that with you in a moment. Just a little bit of a backstory. When I'm talking about a spiritual awakening, your soul's awakening, what I'm talking about is remembering who you really are. We were all born as these magnificent beings of light and love. But because of life and all the crap that we go through, all the beliefs that we take on as children, all of our experiences that we take on and we go through, we forget that we are a soul. We forget that we are a being of light and love, and we get very entrenched in what is called the ego. And when we're stuck in the ego, we are stuck in a pain state. Okay. For me, okay, again, back to what is a spiritual awakening. Spiritual awakening, I'm not talking about religion. I'm not talking about organized religion, okay? I'm talking about more the spiritual realm. And if somebody, well, we'll go down that path in just a second. But for myself, and I know so many people in the world are the same, we are raised in organized religion. And what happens in organized religion is there are tremendous amount of rules. You can do this, you can't do that. You have to think this way, you have to behave this way. And for the religion I was raised in, it was, if you don't toe the line, girlfriend, you're going to burn in hell. You've got God over here, you're taught, oh, he loves you, God loves you and supports you, but you piss him off, you're going to be punished for life,
And that's like one extreme and the other extreme, and literally, so unconditional love is on one end, which is God and Jesus, and on the other end is extreme fear, which is burning in hell and the devil himself. Now, that's a long spectrum to go down to get to the other side.
Yes,
true.
Yes, it's conflict is what it is. It's absolute conflict. And so we humans, we live in a lot of conflict. We don't really realize it, but if we were to stop and analyze our lives, there's a lot of conflict. We're wanting this, but we're living this. And so anyway, when I was going through my spiritual awakening, part of that was letting go of my religious upbringing. And I will say that was terrifying. It was terrifying
to let go of that, to let go of that structure of a belief system and to step outside of that, which is community, which is frightening for us.
It is. And the frightening part for me was the fear of being alienated by my family, the fear of being rejected by my family, because my family was very hardcore into this. There were some things that you don't dare talk about. I had a relative who was quite sick, and me being the holistic healer, I suggested something that is very safe and actually scientifically proven, which is called EFT tapping, where you tap on your meridians. And I mentioned that to this person, and you would have thought that I was talking about the devil. That's not in the Bible. You can't be doing stuff like that. I mean, that's how serious it was. It was like, okay, I'm sorry. I'll just
out of tap. Okay.
Yeah. So that's kind of how, there's some very hardcore stuff going on. And I had to, well, I don't want to say I got to make the choice. Did I want to follow the calling of my soul? Because my soul was leading me away from that belief system that I was very entrenched in. Or did I want to stay where it was safe and in my comfort zone because I was afraid of family not loving me and not accepting me? And I'll tell you, as scary as it was, I made the decision to follow the calling of my soul. And thank goodness I did, because I have had an internal experience that has been so profound on so many levels. And one of the most profound experiences I had through this journey, I was in Hawaii, gorgeous, it's paradise. When I moved there, I was born there, I was raised on the mainland, and I moved back years later. And when I moved back, the realtor said, life in Hawaii is vacation every day, because we're living everybody else's vacation. And it's true, So I'm in this beautiful place where I was born, and I know I was led back there to do a lot of healing there. But I met up with this group. It was like a meditation group, and we were at this park by the water. So if you look one direction, you have the Pacific Ocean, you have the sunsets, which are always stunning. And you look over here to the other side, and you have the mountains behind you, and you have all this greenery, you have the birds, you have the trees. And just the vibration of the island is just magical in itself. And we're in this little group led by this wonderful man from India, guru, Tannen, I forgot what his name is in this moment. I wrote about him in my book. He was like this magical person. This one session in particular, oh, thank you. There's a copy of my book. Yes, Healing Your Soul in a Chaotic World, Defying the Odds of Sanity and Survival. Thank you. He took each of us, because we were a small group, and he actually had the ability to walk his fingers up our spine. And it was like he would point out, oh, at age this, you had a trauma at this age, this age, this age, this age. And he just kept hitting trauma after trauma after trauma, walking up my spine. Very fascinating. And the theme of that night was, he said that he felt that as a group collective, we had a lot of anger, if I remember correctly, towards our father or something. And so I allowed myself to get into this space, of healing. And I listened to the leader. I listened to the divine universe, because I started getting these spiritual downloads. And I had this massive burst of releasing of all of this anger. I hated my birth father. I hated God. I hated all these people. And I let all this out. And then I just started sobbing like I have never sobbed before. And I laid down on my little mat. And when I was able to catch my breath, I said, how can I serve you?
Wow. Now, when you say you, who did you mean?
How can I serve my higher self? How can I serve a greater source energy? How can I serve the world?
Yes.
How can I take what has happened in my life and make something good of it?
Yes. A life purpose.
A life purpose, exactly. And when I asked that question, how can I serve you? It helped me to be less afraid to walk away from the fear state, my ego being in fear that I'm going to be abandoned, because I had serious abandonment issues, very serious, from birth. And so that was something I had been working through. And so like the last thing I wanted to do is to be completely abandoned by like my dad and, aunts and uncles. And I wasn't worried about being rejected by my husband or my children. That was totally different. But it was that long-rooted family. And I was able to work through that fear, let it go, and own my self, my spiritual self, my higher self, and trusting in and starting to believe in this universe, source, spirit, God, whatever you want to call it, that was loving and compassionate without judgment.
So I heard you talk through a progressive step program here.
Yes.
I heard you say you recognized it, you released it, you decided to let it go, then the release came, which is separate than deciding to let go of it. Then you actually released it, and it was like an emotion that came out of you. And this is why it is so important to be able to cry and sob and scream and shake and whatever it takes to release. Our body physically must release.
Yes.
And then at that point, you were ready to understand who you are and where you're going next, and then identify that. Is that correct?
That sounds beautiful. You are so good at summarizing what I say. You do this all the time, and I love it. I mean, yes, beautifully said. Yes, and I will share, though, it's not like, when I had this big spiritual awakening that everything was roses and honeysuckle. Life still had its challenges, and I still felt challenged to stay in that space 100% of the time. Just to be honest, because I found, it's easy to slip back into the ego, and how that showed up for me was not trusting, because I spent a lifetime of having trust issues and also thinking I had to be in charge all the time. I always had to figure things out, and I always felt like I had to do everything alone. And so there was a time that I stepped back into thinking I had to do that again. And so it's not that I lost my connection at all. I did not, but I was not tapping into that source the way that I could have, should have, you know.
Well, yeah, it's you said a lifetime you had learned to react a certain way and to take control in a certain way, and you had expectations of yourself for an entire lifetime up to that point. So that's a long time to create a habit.
Yes.
And so to create a new habit doesn't happen at the snap of a finger. It's a slow process of realizing. First you recognize it, and then you go, okay, and then you slip back and do that old habit again. It's just natural. It's just natural. We give ourselves a break with loving kindness, and we come back to where we should be, where we know we need to be as our true self. And then that just keeps happening. It keeps happening until it gets longer process of healing, tiny step back. It gets longer and longer until it becomes who you are. That's a sustainable process
Yes.
for
Yes.
habit change.
Yeah, exactly. It reminds me of, when like changing your mindset, because we get so ingrained into like a negative state of mind. And then as you go in and change your mindset, yeah, you can slip back a little bit, but then you keep working at it. And then pretty soon you're just in a positive mindset, 95% of the time. It's the same way the way I see it as, with the spirituality, it's exactly what you say. It's rewiring. With the mindset, you're rewiring your brain, and with the soul, your spiritual expansion, it's like you're rewiring that whole circuitry. It's also going in and letting the ego know that, it's okay. We
And
got this.
for most of us, I think it is more of a slow process, a practice.
Yeah.
Let's say a practice. I know that there are people that have had a snap spiritual awakening. Eckhart Tolle is one that I'm thinking of right now. That's
Mm-hmm.
how he described his, and I don't. There's very few stories I've heard like that, but I know they're out there.
Yes.
But for most of us, we have to slowly teach that ego that it's okay. We've rewired our system and that we're going to be fine, because really the ego is just trying to protect us. That's a
Oh,
part
absolutely.
of
Yeah.
primal. It's just trying to protect us by
Mm-hmm.
not changing. So, because change is scary for the ego. It's, oh, we've been doing something for this whole lifetime, like you talked about. If we change, we might die, right? So
Right.
no, we're not going to die. We're just upgrading. So yeah, oh, I love that. So great. For me, the spiritual journey actually did start with an organized, semi-organized religion. Let's call it that. They don't call themselves an organized religion, but it was developed in like the early 1900s, and it had structure and it has certain ordained ministry and that type of thing. So yes, it was an organization. And being able to give up our will, which is our ego, really, um, is something that I learned to do in this body of people, this community, just for short spurts of time, of course, because I always took it back. I always took it back. And I'm still learning that process. And, a higher source power, which I do call my higher self or spirit or soul, like you called it. Some people do, label it God, or the universe. There's many ways that we can describe that depending on what fits with what we've learned so far in our lifetime. Now I do call it spirit. And to me now, it's not just mine, but it's the band of angels that I know are around me. My son's soul is part of it. My son's spirit is a big part of it, because I know he's here. So it's
Yes,
easy
he is.
to Josh. It's easy for me to default to that, knowing that, he is spirit now, And of course I am too. And you are too, even though we're still alive, we are spirit and self in a body on this earth. So there's a lot to this, isn't there?
There really is. And I love what you brought up about how for most people it's a bit of a process, the contrast. And it's important that we not compare ourselves to somebody like Eckhart Tolle, who had that instantaneous or anything, compare ourselves to anybody, because everybody is on their own journey. And everybody will heal and transform at a rate that they are ready to. And it's all perfect for that person. There is no judgment. There is no blue ribbon at the end of the race, because it's not a race. It's an experience. And we get to experience it as quickly or slowly or however, up and down, back and forth, whatever you want to call it, that we choose. And it's all perfect.
That's so interesting. That's the second time I've heard that today.
Oh, yes, that's confirmation.
It's not a race, it's an experience.
Yes.
And in our own self bubble, it's our journey.
Yeah.
Our responsibility for ourself. Others is theirs.
Yes,
right?
that's right. That's right. One of the things that is a little bit bothersome to me about organized religion is every religion believes it. Oh,
excuse me.
Bless you. Oh,
and there will be another one because I always
you're so dainty
on a podcast and on YouTube. Okay.
Hey, we're just real here, so it's all good. Huh. But on that sneezy note, every religion believes that they are the only way to God. They are the only way to eternal life. And what I have come to believe is there are what now over 8 billion people on planet Earth now. I think we've reached over 8 billion is the last I heard. That means that there are over 8 billion ways to spiritual growth, to your way to God, your path to enlightenment, to your way of joy.
Well, yes, I agree with you 100% on all of that. And just a little caveat or a little extra, lots of times organized religion says it's the only way, just like this is the only brand of readers that you can buy because it's sales. It's
marketing.
Money. There's money involved.
Yes, it's all marketing.
That's all I can say about that.
Yes, you come over here and you get this, and you come over here and you get this. Not to make light of this, but I will tell you kind of a funny story that kind of plays into this to make a little bit light of a heavy situation. My kids were raised in Utah, which is a very heavy Mormon state. We were not Mormon, and I wanted my children to know that there was more than the Mormon church. And so when they were old enough, I took them to Sunday school. And we went to an Episcopal church and to a Lutheran church. They were on the same street, one on one side of the road, one on the other. And it boiled down to, okay, kids, do you want to go to the one that has cake afterwards or the one that has other snacks afterwards? Where do you want to go to church? Because it's marketing,
It is.
So anyway, they had their experience, and they're adults and they make it up their own mind of what they believe and everything, and that's all good. So
yeah, that's part of our human experience. Actually, marketing is part of our human experience.
Yes, it is.
And everybody, every company, every organization, every community does it in one way or another. Yeah. It's part of our human experience, so it's okay.
Yeah, it is. It absolutely is. And what's important is that people follow their heart and they make choices that are right for them. What is inside of their heart, what is inside of their soul, not what somebody is telling them they should do or telling them to do, but it's what comes from within.
Yeah. Definitely. I mean, this is quite the topic and can make many people uncomfortable.
Oh, and yeah.
I'm sure that's happening. But this is reality. This is the world that we're living in. This is the universe we're in. And we're just learning every day at a time as a whole, as an earth. how to evolve to the next level. Because like I said before, life is a video game to me. You don't like
Right,
ever like win and get
right.
to the right answer. You just keep leveling up and hopefully becoming a better human in this existence
Yes.
and a better, and then feeding that soul that we're talking about, the nourishment that it needs to, really live that life purpose that you mentioned at the beginning. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Well said.
Oh. Well, yeah, so this is so cool. Yeah, this book, Healing Your Soul in a Chaotic World. This is Wendy's book, isn't it beautiful? And these butterflies have special meaning to me. When my son passed away, um, that day everybody saw yellow butterflies everywhere. And so
Oh,
butterflies, really for a lot of people sort of are a symbol that loved ones are still here. They're just showing
mhm.
up in this beautiful way of a butterfly or rainbows, feathers, that type of thing. But yes, so when you're healing your soul, you're really talking about healing that person you were born as, that spirit of yours, from the traumas that we experience in human form, not only from our own ego, but from others.
Yes, yes, that's very well said. And thank you for sharing that. And I also want to share for you, for those that like to journal. It's such a powerful way to go in and do that healing that you were talking about, and exploring your spirituality even is your beautiful journal, the Lightweavings, the journal and burn, by you and Tam. Let me get that going the right. There we go. Sorry.
Of the same as the podcast, Lightweavings. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's just gorgeous. And I love your concept of going in, journaling and burning, and you have some fantastic prompts in here. And Dawn, you and I, we both know this is what we want for people. This is a part of our purpose, is to help people to grow and to transform and to be the best that they are, and to shine that light when they feel that spark or see that spark. Get out the billows and start like a fire. Build that fire.
And that's
And
that process you were talking about earlier. It's really the identifying,
yeah,
the deciding to let go, which is what this journal and burn is all about.
yeah,
Letting it go and then releasing it, which is what the burning part is. Like there's some
right.
physical action, whether it's from your body or, lighting a piece of paper on fire in a safe place, of course, and then
Yeah.
watching the smoke go up with it, and then being grateful at the same time
Oh
for what
yeah.
we have, letting go of what's no longer serving us, being grateful for who we are, where we're at, who we're with, and where we're going. And then taking those steps forward to bring more joy into your life. Yeah.
Yeah.
We both have programs that have the word joy in it. And mine is called The Journey to Joy. That is the roadmap that I've created to help really driven people, driven leaders take the steps to create joy in their life, and not just at the end. Like I said, not at the end of the video game, because there is no end. It's so that joy comes in little pieces at a time and creates that light, that space in your life, and then it attracts more of the same.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. In your program too, it's all about joy.
Well, it is. Yeah. I have, well, my business is Aligned with Joy. I've had that business name for a very long time. It's Aligned with Joy, Elevated Living in a New Era. It's my tagline, because this is a new era. It's time to be elevated. And I have, my two programs. One is a one-on-one. It's Decide to Rise. It's for those that are ready to really fuel that flame within them, that light within them, and go in and just, clearing out the crud. And I have another one that I'm super excited about. It's a 6-week program. It's Healings from the Womb, a New Beginning, because so much of our trauma starts before we're even born. It starts at conception and goes through the whole gestational stage. And for the first few years of our life, sets us up for the patterns that play out in our life and it's fascinating stuff. I even did a Facebook Live in my group today on it, saying, hey, we're going to be talking, more details about all of this, because it's just really fun stuff.
Can't wait for that. I'm in your group. I'm excited to see that. That's fascinating. Like you said, that's the word, is fascinating, that it starts way before we even are born.
Yeah.
That is amazing. So yeah. And then you use the word clearing out the crud. Isn't it? That's exactly what it is. It's the crud. Let's just get that mud out of there and
Yeah.
let that light in.
Yeah. Yeah. It is.
Cool.
Oh,
Awesome. Is there any words of wisdom that you want to share with all this great information about spiritual awakening today that you would like to encourage with?
just honor what you're feeling inside. Know that where you are is okay. And if you would like to enhance your spiritual growth, that you feel that calling inside of you, set that intention, and doorways will open for you. Teachers will walk into your pathway, and the way will be shown for you. And you're not alone. It may feel scary, and it's okay, because when you get to the other side, like, oh man, what was I so scared about? It's the it's all beautiful, and it's all good at your own timing. How about you?
That first step is always hard, isn't it?
It is.
And it's
Yeah.
really not hard once you decide to do it, just, in step forth in fear. Yeah.
Right.
And then the fear dissipates. It no longer has power over you. And so, yes, thank you for asking me. Along with what you're saying, and I've been saying, remember who you were born as. Well, remember who you were before you were born, before the trauma hit. Since, now I've learned that from you, Wendy, is that, trauma can take place in the womb. So, when your soul decided to become a human being on this earth, and show up here, who are you? And it's a process of sort of letting go, and letting go of the fear specifically to not shine, because we create a fear of shining because we don't want to make other people uncomfortable, a lot of us, especially women.
Yeah.
So to release that fear of really shining and being bold and being bright, being that human that you were really meant to be, is the whole idea here. And so, yeah, if you're looking for some help with discovering that person, Wendy and I are here to help. We are health coaches and life coaches, and we would love to be able to help you. So
We absolutely would. And something you said that is so spot on, that I'm really glad you brought up, is, remembering who you are. And that is something that is really common when you start going through a spiritual awakening. You ask the question, who am I? Because you're starting to change your identity. And that's a really scary thing, to change your identity. And actually, in my book, I wrote a little soliloquy. I don't know if you've read that or not, but I asked, who am I?
mm-hmm.
And at the end of my book, I wrote, I am. Because through my spiritual awakening, when I asked that question, who am I discovered who I am. It's very, very powerful.
I am the great I am.
Yeah, exactly.
Connected.
Yeah.
You definitely
Yeah.
are.
This is something that I have shared before in different groups, and it's very powerful.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And so I'm really looking forward to go through that workbook at the end of this book, that you created, Wendy, because the questions, the guidance that you give through the series of questions is incredible. It's profound.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
I appreciate that. So would you be okay would you humor me if I just read Who Am I?
Yes, please.
Because here's why. It's not about me and my experience. This is about when I ask people, when I share this, to listen and notice, what do you resonate with? What questions that I ask are you asking too? And maybe these are questions that you don't even know that you're asking, or to know to ask.
Do it.
So I will read this through. I think I have enough light. I know it's kind of dark in where I'm sitting here. But I wrote this in my book because when, like I said, I was going through not knowing who I was, and I was actually getting ready to have a channeling with my spirit guides for the first time, which was scary because that was like so out of my comfort zone. But anyway, these are the questions that I ask. And again, as you're listening, just ask yourself, what questions do you resonate with? So who am I? What will my life look like now that I'm no longer hating anyone, especially myself? What will my life smell like as I go through my day-to-day routine, feeling my heart burst with love and joy, bringing tears that gently roll over my high cheekbones? What will my life feel like as I accept unconditional love from a soulmate who welcomes me with open arms, without judgment or expectations, who looks at me with adoration, who listens as if he really hears my words as they freely flow from my moist but once cracked and silenced lips? What will my life sound like as I move from person to person, welcoming them into my embrace of acceptance for who they are, loving them and helping them fill empty spaces in their hearts and lungs? Who will still be in my life? Who will leave because they can't accept the new me? Who will I push away because we grate on each other, causing open wounds that only time and separation can heal? What does success and abundance look like? Is it tender lavender and yellow spring flowers popping up through the moist soil for the first time, eagerly searching the sun for nourishment, warmth, and assurance that they did their job well, and knowing that they are beautiful and perfect in their innocence? Is it a majestic oak tree with thick, rough branches jutting out in all directions, inviting me to climb aboard as high as I can go without fear of falling? Or is it a quiet picnic lunch with my soulmate, spread out on a block pattern quilt that was stitched by loving and skilled hands, belly laughing at silly jokes, rolling in the fresh, thick green grass that tickles our necks and bare feet? What will my body feel like once it has purged itself of dis-ease and fills the space with health and self-love? Will I dance across the room and pretend I'm the prima donna in a school play? Will my heart yearn to sing out loud, off key, but with gusto, as if I'm the most angelic singer I've ever heard? Will I savor the gift of making love with my partner like there was no tomorrow, only today, sweating in the energy that flows between us, melding as one, breathing in unison and sticking together like paper and glue, cocooned in our little space and time, safe from the outside storm? What will my life taste like now that I've spat out the bitterness of decades past, self-loathing no longer poisoning and dulling my taste buds? Will it taste like the salty ocean breeze on a warm summer day, or like melting pineapple ice cream dripping down my fingers, the sweet tart fruit stinging my tongue, followed by the pool of wetness moistening my parched mouth? Will it taste like chocolate pudding, inviting me to take another bite of its gooey sweetness as it coats my soul? Where will I go and live out my days? The world is mighty and large, yet only a small portion of earth calls out to me. And even then, my heart and soul are torn between the beauty, the familiarity, the feeling of being home, and the sense of new adventure. What will my children and granddaughter think as they watch me discovering who I am, morphing into someone they don't recognize? Will they be open to seeing me as I am now through their own eyes? Or will they long to view me through the tinted lenses of their childhood? Will they accept me as the expression of the expansive soul I seek to unfold in front of their lives, silently showing them that they too can follow their inner calling and discover greatness about themselves that they might otherwise be afraid to explore? Or will they long for familiarity and safety of the harder-edged ghost of my past? Am I brave enough to discover who I am? Or do I shrink back and let others define me, keeping me in a vice grip that is safe for them, but choking me of air and expansion? Am I brave enough to listen to my soul's calling to reach out, explore, Be open to great wonders that not even my mind's eye can create from its current vantage point. I'm not sure who I am, but I do know that I'm a brave and peaceful warrior, even through the fear. My past experience in this lifetime stands beside me like an invisible partner, assuring me that I can do anything I set my focus on. It lovingly reminds me of the times I nearly let go and caved to the pressures of the pain, but instead reached inside a vast, hidden cavern and pulled out a dose of strength that I didn't know I had. My past reminds me that I hear the sounds of a grander source guiding me, whispering throughout my being, assuring me that I am love, that I deserve all my heart's desire, egging me on to the unknown. I am eager to experience every second of as my new life unfolds out before me, like a map in which I use 64 colors of crayons to draw on the roads and terrain, where I choose the freeways or a meandering side road that offers scenery of 6 shades of green and yellow that I'd miss if I took the fast lane, where I connect the dots. Yes, I am brave enough to live 2 lives in this one lifetime, one of pain and suffering, one of surrendering to the universe and discovering who I really am. Do you know who you are? If not, are you brave enough to find out?
Mic drop. Awesome. Beautiful. My favorite part was the chocolate pudding.
That's my favorite part too.
Beautiful. Yeah. And that adoration, that word really stuck to, looking for that, being with that partner that just adores who we are. Ah, who we are. That's the theme. There's awakening to that.
Yes.
Who we are.
And we
Yeah.
get to adore who we are.
Mhm.
It starts with ourselves.
That's exactly the truth. Exactly right. Awesome. Adore and accept. Those are 2 words that I wrote down. Accept.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Wendy. Thank you. I think this topic, we will revisit it because there's so much to it. And as we go, as we evolve and become more awakened, there will be more pieces to share.
Yes.
And it's an honor to do it with you. So, everybody, we are Lightweavings podcast. And this is where we ask that question, what has dimmed your light? You have light, all of you. And let's do something about it. Are you ready? I'm ready.
I'm ready. Let's do it.
Let's do it. All right. Thank you for joining us. So Wendy and Dawn here to sign off, and we will be back next week.
Yes, we will. Thank you. Thank you, Dawn. And thank you, everyone. Take good care. Always remember that you are loved and that you matter.